The Financial Intelligence Center has been given 20 days to hand over all documents to a number of subsidiaries after their bank accounts were closed down. Sekunjalo Investments is one of the companies that filed an application at the Western Cape High Court after their accounts were closed after the banks cited reputational risk. The judge on Monday ordered the FIC to supply documents requested by Sekunjalo and ordered it to pay the cost of the case. Let's now get some reaction from the board chairperson of Sekunjalo Group, that is Dr. Iqbal Surve. Dr. Iqbal, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. Let's start off here. This is an interlocutory application that was brought, but please, before we get into the judgment of that interlocutory application, explain to us what the main application is.
Good morning, Aldrin, and thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a real pleasure. I'll tell you, we have taken the banks to the Equality Court and the High Court, and the main case is that we've argued the banks have no basis for closing the accounts, and in fact that the banks have violated our constitutional rights in doing so. They have discriminated against us. That is the case in the Equality Court. In terms of the High Court, we have argued similarly and, of course, a lot more on legal grounds. And we are, in fact, challenging the 2010 SCA case, which is quite a famous case, which gives the banks the right to close any South African's bank accounts for whatever reason, if they so wish. So that has been a case which the banks have deliberately delayed. They don't want to go to the Equality Court. They don't want to go to the High Court. We've been trying to get them there. They've used every single delay tactic in the world that you could imagine. And so part of their delay has been that they've refused to provide us with the minutes of their meetings, the risk committee minutes. They've refused to provide us with important documents which should have shaped their decision to close our accounts and the accounts of other people in the country, a lot of other black people as well. And we also went to the FIC and we've written to them and we've said to them, listen, the banks have closed the accounts. They tell us we've done nothing wrong. They tell us that, it's all based on media and all based on a party commission's media as opposed to anything that we did wrong. But yet the FIC is supposed to have all this information. And the FIC itself has refused to give us the information as well. So we were compelled, reluctantly, to go to the High Court against the banks and against the FIC. Now, against the banks, unbelievably, and a bank like Nedbank went to the High Court and said, so sorry, we don't have any minutes of our meetings. We have no risk committee minutes. The documents have been lost. So we don't have anything to have said why we shut down these accounts. When we went to the FIC, they tried to argue confidentiality, but in the end, this is a major victory for all South Africans, because if a bank shuts down your account just on the basis of media, on no other reason, what they call reputational grounds, now South Africans will have the right to insist that the bank provides the records and the FIC gives them the records. So it's not just a victory for Sekunjalo, Adrian. It's an incredibly important victory for all South Africans.
Yep. Is it Sekunjalo's argument as well that the accounts were closed based on political reasons and based on racial reasons as well, making reference, of course, to other supposed cases that could have equated to reputational damage? If you look, for instance, at the cases relating to KPMG, Tonga Hewlett case as well. So what is Sekunjalo saying about those particular cases versus how the banks treated Sekunjalo and how the banks treated those two companies?
That's exactly the point. So what we have argued is discrimination. So the first point that we're saying, all these companies, Tonga Hewlett, EOH, Steinhoff, Glencore, KPMG, McKinsey, all of these companies have committed a crime. In fact, they said so themselves, and they are guilty of criminal offences, of bribery, or, of fraud, etc., etc., etc. There is absolutely no evidence that we have done any of that whatsoever. In fact, even the banks say so. that you have done nothing wrong. They say you've never committed fraud, you've never done money laundering, but we will close your accounts due to reputational, because, Dr. Surve, you appear in the newspapers in our competitors, let's say the Daily Maverick or the News 24 somewhere all the time. So we said, but that's discrimination. These people have committed fraud and you keep their accounts open. In our case, we've done nothing wrong. In fact, on the contrary, we reviewed the party commission. The 3 commissioners withdrew their opposition to our review. Only the presidency has kept his opposition to it. We had Judge Heath, on the advice of the banks, actually do an independent review of our entire organization with his team for 6 months. And his conclusion was that this is a grave injustice to yourself, Dr. Surve, and Sekunjalo, in his full report, which we made publicly available. And in our review application, we explained that this attack on us, has come directly from the presidency. It's come from Pravin Gordhan. It's come from discussions we've had with banking executives who have told us, look, this matter, no matter even if we want to settle with you, we can't, because instructions have come from the top politically to shut your accounts because, and in fact, as recently as 3 months ago, one of the people very close to the senior politicians in the ANC came to see me and said, look, if you give up independent media, we will then make sure that the banks reinstate your bank accounts immediately. And I said, no, we've fought for our freedom and democracy. We have the right to media freedom. We'll continue to fight you, no matter how difficult it is. We'll continue to actually make sure that the country, like Newzroom Afrika is a very important institution. We must have media freedom in the country, whether it's in broadcasting, in print or online. So we've resisted that attempt to shut us down, shut down our businesses. And there's another reason as well. Yep. We are questionably, if you look at the World Economic Forum, there's only 2 black companies that have been there since we've been there since 2007, Davos, Patrice Motsepe and ourselves. And we compete, we have tens of billions of revenue, 8,500 employees. We compete with establishment businesses in this country. And there is no question that these businesses see us as a threat. And in fact, even the banks are invested in our competitors, whether it is in the technology businesses, food and fishing businesses, telecom businesses, all the businesses, we have more than 200 companies. And this is a really serious attempt to shut out of the economy a black company with a almost 25-year legacy, Aldrin.
Yeah. Dr. Surve, who is the senior politician that you're referring to? Because the inference that I draw from that is that the banks are in collusion with politicians, if this is the argument that you're making. So who is the senior politician?
Well, you are quite correct in drawing that. In fact, going a step further, the bank executives have told us off the record that indeed they have been instructed to do so. And you see, this is why the banks don't want to come to court, because we're going to put into the witness box the CEOs and senior executives of the banks, and they will be questioned about their telephone calls, their meetings, with people such as Pravin Gordhan, with engagements with the president and presidency and other key ministers that instructed them to shut our accounts, because it was all done in sequence from all the various banks. Now, this is not something we're speculating, Aldrin. This is something we actually put in our papers where we have sued the presidency and different organs of state. And if you read our Section 3 notice, which is the notice that you have to give to a government department when you sue them, it's the law in the country, you'll see that we set out very clearly how the presidency, how Pravin Gordhan, and how others have, worked to shut down our accounts. And we also say so in the party review of the party commission. And of course, in our more detailed summons, we will set out in great detail the information that we have at our disposal. But what I think everyone must understand, that the banks don't want us to go to court. So all these little victories...
Sure, Dr. Surve, but I need to get to who this person is. Who is the senior politician who said that if you close down independent, or if you withdraw from independent, that the bank accounts will then be opened. Who is the senior politician?
This is one of the president's advisors.
One of the president's advisors.
I'm not saying to you. This is one of the president's advisors who has consistently come to us and said, look, give over independent media, we'll give you a consortium to take them over, you walk away, you retain, and in fact even went a step further and said, we'll even cut you in on the deals that we are doing at the moment. And I said, sorry, I'm not going to be party to any kind of corruption or anything like that. Even if I'm left with nothing on my back, I will continue to fight for the rights of our country, for our people, for the freedoms. And it's been a great cost to myself, Aldrin, and to my family.
Sure.
To put up this fight for media freedom.
Did this advisor say whether the president knows about the conversation that he was having with you?
Oh, no, very much so. No, very much so. Very much so. The advisor, it's very interesting because when I have spoken to the president at times, and he has told me, well, it is not him, it is Pravin Gordhan that is actually the person that's engineering this fight against you. Pravin is the person, and I just laugh, and I've said to the president, but he's your minister, you're saying this. And I think part of it, arose when one of my editors asked Pravin Gordhan a very difficult question a couple of years back about some funds overseas, and he took great offense to that. And then subsequently, when one of our editor-in-chief employed Pitram Zalikazi, and in fact, Pravin Gordhan in his book, Connecting the Dots, has even got on record to say this against us. He has said, I will pay the price, for having taken a stance by hiding these people that he refers to as people that were state captured. Now, I don't hire the journalists, I'm the chairman of the board.
Let me just quickly, a final question that I want to push through. In 2016, there was a cabinet meeting that took place, and cabinet had resolved at the time that there should be an inquiry into the banks. That was rebutted by Minister Pravin Gordhan, and that inquiry never took place. Considering the allegations that you are making now, do you believe that there should be an inquiry into the banks?
Absolutely, Aldrin. I think it's so important for all South Africans. Our small victory this week is for all South Africans, in particular black South Africans, because black South Africans are being discriminated. South Africa itself is a victim of rand manipulation by these banks. These banks are so powerful. And if they can fight someone like me and our organization, can you imagine what they do every day to ordinary, in particular black South Africans, who are having to pay more for their home loans, for their cars, who are kept out of this economy? And we cannot allow this anymore. South Africa has few banks. It's a banking cartel, linked together with BASA, with BankServe. And Germany has 400 banks, not in South Africa. And here there's a very close relationship between the South African banks and the Reserve Bank. There's a rotating door between all of them, etc. We have to stand up and demand great accountability from the banking institutions for future generations, and for our country, Adrian.
Thank you so much for your time. Iqbal Surve is the chairperson of the Sekunjalo group, and we have reached out to the Financial Intelligence Center. They've issued a statement saying that they wish to advise the legal team is considering the judgment made by the Western Cape High Court, sitting as the Equality Court, the Ndundana and others interlocutory application. No further comments will be made at this particular stage. And of course, Sekunjalo, as well as other companies owned by Iqbal Surve, have been implicated in the Party Commission investigation, and that report is being now taken on review by Dr. Iqbal Surve.